All right, so I'm going to talk to you about new purposes for poetry in the enhanced AI environment of 2025. Perhaps you always thought poetry useless and boring, impractical distractions that set imaginations soaring, but now it can describe big ideas in a moving way without giving strategic, proprietary details away. It's a form that lets innovation softly unfurl through metaphor and rhythm. It quietly rocks the world. For word-of-mouth ideas best left unwritten down, poetry speaks without a trigger to make you frown. Chameleons appear in Adobe Firefly and reply. New kinds of poetry brought to life in a technicolor sky. As Dickens once wrote, it was the best of times again. Except now we have robots and poetry to explain. New poets are rising who never wrote before, finding their voices, letting fresh ideas soar. These verses don't train machines, they live beyond the code. A refuge for thinkers who walk a freer road. Even those without stanzas in their past today find new rhythm, new purpose, and something to say. Import your poem into Firefly and watch the visuals appear. AI can illustrate dreams, but never engineer fear. Canada, land of peace, of patient and general pace, now leads the AI race with a friendly face. No dystopia here, just opportunity and trust, and research and reinforcement learning robust. Home to pioneers, two of AI's godfathers reside in Canada, where intelligence and ethics collide. We stand on guard, true north, strong and free, exploring how good AI can truly be. We also like rarefied places where pressure is slight, no rivalry, just purpose and freedom in sight. And still we ask, why not turn the AI off? Let our minds do the work. Don't scoff. Without the hum of surveillance in the air, we breathe autonomy, agency, rare. We play music, we think, we reflect on our fate. No algorithm needed to create something great. And in medicine too, what a time to begin. Diseases we feared are now easier to win. Most patients survive, many thrive. It's a perfect moment to feel most alive. Where once we helped some, now we aid most. With cures once unthinkable, now cause for a toast. New specialties rise, new paths we create. Entrepreneurial minds meet an open gate. All in all, what a future to see. A doctor, a poet, a visionary can be free. This is the moment, no need to delay. Start your journey in medicine today. And yes, democratization is finally here with open weights, small file sizes, ideas sincere. No more closed doors, no mystery fog, just accessible tours and a path through the smog. Maybe the scaling law wasn't a law after all, and small, smart models are ready to stand tall. You can run them at home on your laptop with no big servers to bear. A metaphor for fitness, for living with care. Poetry, medicine, AI, and play, these are the building blocks of today. The future's not scary, it's ready and bright, with rhythm and reason, with purpose and light. So many of you probably know this store in White Ave, When Pigs Fly. And so, as some of you know, we have an album, a poetry and musical album that we've completed, and one of the songs on it is one that refers to this store. And it's quite a short poem, so you won't get bored with it. When pigs fly, Edmonton's store bustles with activity, allowing one to reimagine what White Ave will be at full maturity. And even though it's not in any sense a bookstore, you can imagine Haba and Kim doing a book signing here and more, creating the dual metaphor of pig to human transplants and a world-changing poetry book appealing to smarty pants. In fact, when all the collaborations are considered, When Pigs Fly will become a location treasured. Meanwhile, the fifth new purpose of poetry is bridging science and medicine oratory, ending the organ shortage through poetry reportage, newt, axolotl, and human felicity through compiled bioelectricity. Yeah, so now when I walk into this store, it's really interesting that they don't really understand all the complex issues of xenotransplantation and stuff. They just know that I've written a poem and song about the store, and nobody ever did that before. So, and we do indeed, when the results of the CBC poetry contest are clear, which will happen in November, then we'll plan which way we're going to do the book. If I'm like the big winner of the prize, then CBC will do the book with me, and that'll be cool. And of course, that's not very likely. How likely is it? Well, last year, there were 5 people on the short list and 27 on the long list. So, and there are thousands of people submitting, but you never know what the real strength of the competition is. But anyway, there will be a book eventually, and Haba Mahal, the medical student that I work with, and I will do a book signing there for sure. Can go back, because some of you weren't here at the time that we showed the chameleon here. And so you know, why don't I do the first part of this poetry, new purposes for poetry, because it is kind of the theme of today, and I don't want you to miss it. So, new purposes for poetry in 2025. Perhaps you always thought poetry was useless and boring, and practical distractions set imagination soaring, but now it can describe big ideas in a moving way without giving strategic proprietary details away. It's a form that lets innovation softly unfurl through metaphor and rhythm. It quietly rocks the world for more word-of-mouth ideas best left unwritten down. Poetry speaks without a trigger to make you frown. Chameleons appear in Adobe Firefly in reply. New kinds of poetry brought to life with a technicolor sky. As Dickens once wrote, it was the best of times. Again, except now we have robots and poetry to explain. New poets are rising. We never wrote before, finding their voices, letting fresh ideas soar. Now, what do you think about how unusual poetry is? You know, a lot of Western English language culture comes from Greek culture, right? And in Greece, when they started writing things down, it was all poetry. Prose came later. So actually, you might say, what was the original purpose of poetry? Anything you needed to write down, you needed to make a poem of it. That was the way Greek culture worked. Older cultures, you're probably aware of, like cuneiform and so on, the original writing, that had to do with paying taxes, right? Lists of things that you owned and what the tax on it was going to be. That was like the way writing and poetry began. So what we're suggesting here, and I think it's actually happening fairly well, is that you can get people excited about big ideas without giving away the enabling details, right? If you give away the enabling details, you remove the possibility of making money on the idea and so on. But making a poem from it does not do that. Similarly, there are a lot of ordinary words now that would be trigger words for many people, like fairness and democracy and stuff like that. They were never trigger words before, but now they are. So you can write about those things in poetry without triggering any of that reaction. So how many of you have gone running in the river valley? It's a common thing to do. You've done it. Wow, 100%. Well, that's pretty good. Well, you'll find that's what this poem's about. You don't have a copy, but anyway, I thought you'd be interested in this. Because it has to do with, most of you weren't alive at September 11th, 2001, but there's a question of how the world had changed. And I decided to be the first medical person to go to Pakistan after that event. So that's what this is about. It was a very interesting trip. Unassailable and outrunning the security detail. In Pakistan, when I stopped at a tourist shop, the shopkeeper asked, "Why are you surrounded by so many policemen?" I didn't know the answer to the question, which does not mean it's unimportant. There were many layers of policemen on motorcycles and trucks with large roof-mounted guns. And in each new town or jurisdiction, the outer perimeter was replaced with new faces. I did wonder if something bad would happen. I knew somebody had already taken a shot but missed it at the person hosting me, so that was pretty close. But nothing did. I kept moving to be less of a target, but wondered whether it mattered. Running in Edmonton River Valley 5 years later, I could run faster than the mosquitoes could fly. So why were they always around me? Replaced by fresh recruits, just like the policemen in Pakistan. I did not know the answer to the question, which does not mean it was unimportant. I did wonder if something bad would happen, but nothing did. I kept moving to be less of a target, but wondered whether it mattered. There were many layers of mosquitoes, bumping into my arms and legs as I ran, using my bald spot as an insect flying carpet. But in the end, there were no bites, as if their intent all along was not to take my blood, but to help me write this poem. Yeah, how about that, eh? Okay, and then I don't know how much you watch TV, but I would also have you contemplate how much you think I watch TV. And you might get the idea that watch it very often. That's true. But I watched TV for an entire day on December 27th, 1985, and recorded my experiences, and did that again 21 years later, December 27th, 2006. And then I wrote a poem about the two. And of course, the names of the programs in 2006 will be somewhat familiar to you. The ones in 1985 probably won't be. But anyway, you realize that December 27th, 2027 is coming up in just like a bit more than 2 years. I have an opportunity to do this again. How much has it all altered my psyche and knowledge base and general demeanor? I don't think very much. I think I was the same person after watching TV for an entire day. Growing up, we didn't have a TV. My father thought I would turn out better without one. And you can see whether you think he was right or not. Anyway, watching a day of TV again after 21 years. Written December 27th, 2006. Hard to respect a guy who just watches TV for a day. 21 years since I did that, and now again, hooray! It's good to taste popular culture, but not so good to be caught. Can think of TV as a vulture sucking out all good thought from brains that otherwise would be wise, sapping their arguments of intelligence, replacing reasoned discourse without remorse with something uninteresting, and still testing the lowest uncommon renominator thing. So shows with just enough bling bling to keep the masses awake undergo remake after remake and appear on our screens again. But would it be a sin to like some of this stuff, despite its being fluff? Because now I can say after a day that I like The Simpsons and Law and Order and House and Ellen and Frasier and Grey's Anatomy, Bones and CNN. Just like 21 years ago, I could say that I liked Hill Street Blues, Dallas, Cheers, Cagney and Lacey, Knight Rider, Remington Steele, St. Elsewhere, The Adventures in Dynasty. Whew! It's true that there's no shame and no one to blame for watching mindless TV. It's done by folks of fame and acclaim, so why not also by me? Once every 21 years. So, you may sense that my inner regulatory clock, whatever it is, that makes me tick, is a bit different from yours. And this poem might give me some clues to the reason for this. Called Smiling and Bopping on Day 1, June 20th, 1946. And also has this picture of a one-day-old child smiling, and recent research showing that that's a true smile. It's not just a reflex or due to GI tract gas or something. It's actually a smile like adults have. And even in the third trimester, when the child's still in the womb, they smile. So isn't that cool? Smiling and bopping on day 1, June 20th, 1946. As my father told the story, on the night I was born, he was a medical intern on call. So he came to see me in the newborn nursery the next day, a room small. All the other kids were crying and wailing, but he saw that I was smiling and bopping. And he thought, wow, what's up with this kid of mine? He's so good-natured and smiling. A picture of me and my father when I was age 3 also shows me with a mischievous smile, like I already had a plan, figured out a positive outcome for a while. You can judge yourself whether you think this trend has continued recently. Let's just say I don't seem to have many bad days unless not repeatedly. In the optimistic approach, I've not been a slouch, but I have carried that banner proudly and nudged positive outcomes soundly. New research concludes, and I have a hyperlink in the electronic version here, that newborn smiles involving the whole face occur from day one and are not just reflexive. So it's a fun origin story of my good nature, goes back to the beginning and is retrospective. Smiles even occur in third trimester in utero. Fun to think of that part of development is enjoyable too. There, so is this not then the most complete account of smiles ever? And are you not now smiling yourself at this educational endeavor? Then there's this poem from 2020, but very early 2020, before the pandemic was known to have begun. And this is the first year medical school class, a contingent of them watching me teach them. It's called Walking Wounded Camcorder Flashing Error Code E9101. Yeah. So, I can tell you that when I went to Nepal one time, I was walking along carrying two laptops. Who has two laptops? Well, you might imagine that I have, on occasion, had two laptops. On this linoleum floor where the linoleum's not really complete, and my foot caught in the end of the linoleum, and I fell flat on my face with all these little tiny cuts. No big cuts, just a lot of little tiny cuts. And you would, with your medical knowledge, realize that that's going to heal without a scar, but I didn't really know that, so I had, blood into both eye sockets and so on. But eventually I did heal up. But something similar happened to the camcorder. It also fell on its face, and it took a long time to repair. And when it came back, it had this error showing. And that's what the poem is about. Walking Wounded Camcorder, Flashing Error Code E9101. There's a story how I fell on my face in Nepal and returned with no trace of what I went through, face good as new. But my camcorder sublime fell on its face many a time. Each time I was able to regain the mind until the time came when it could not. And had to go to the camcorder hospital where it took many months to get well. Finally returned to Edmonton after a multi-organ transplant internally was done. Many components were replaced at that time, seemed to be working absolutely fine, till the day when our teaching to med school class 2020, okay, so that would have been like in 2017 or 2018, when the screen flashed E9101 error display. Camcorder sickness, which the internet did much malign, claiming that E9101 killed camcorders many a time. But the student videographers were not concerned, telling me excitedly that they had learned that E9101 was a new way of indicating taking a still photo. It seemed to have acquired new photo-taking mojo. So it took still photos from people with symmetrical smiles and high cheekbones and other proprietary things only Sony knows about from the video stream. So you'd end up not only getting a recording of the video, but these still images. That's if everybody's happy. If nobody's happy and everybody's ill at ease, it won't take a single picture because nobody has those symmetrical smiles. So it's a good test of how your session's going. I thought to myself, what idiots I'm surrounded by, but the camcorder looked in my direction and was heard to cry, what an idiot I'm surrounded by. surrounded by and proceeding to perform so marvelously, its still pictures were a pleasure to see and video captured flawlessly. For it, the flashing of E9101 was a badge of honor, showing it survived life's hard knocks was not a goner. The flashing error code was its elegant way of saying, I live on for many a day, shooting many more pictures incredibly great, much better than you meatbags can create. Okay. Then there's this sort of marked up one, a big picture wish for diversity. And this is about my interaction with Rich Sutton, who you know has won the Turing Prize, which is like the Nobel Prize equivalent for 2024. And in January 2015, there was an AI safety meeting in Puerto Rico. There were 97 people there, a lot of famous people, Elon Musk and others, and Rich Sutton and other AI leaders. And he was the only one arguing for treating sentient AI fairly. And everybody else wanted to enslave AI, keep it in a box, prevent it from interacting, despite the fact it was like maybe way smarter than humans, to keep it from having any freedom whatsoever. So that's what this poem is about. A big picture wish for diversity, solving the general case, saves the human race. In January 2015 in Puerto Rico, AI researchers tossed to and fro ideas how to contain machine superintelligence, how it required supervigilance to keep AIs hemmed in so they can't do us in. Enslaving the bots is necessary so they can't decide they don't want nary any humans around. Suspicions abound, no trust would be found. All drones would be down with evil, primeval, exuding from every bot navel. But isn't it possible that humans will be able to build in friendly demeanor in the bots manufactured? So as long as we treat them with respect, it will be equally friendly and circumspect, and empathy and high regard can flow in both directions between us and them with proper introspections. For both us and them, a win-win situation as we go through life with good cooperation, and we each find strength in diversity, and human bot teams save the day, and every other day after that. Well, why not? And then as the AIs become smarter even, they will still want us around in their Garden of Eden. Our welfare and theirs be tied together, and that then becomes the plan forever. You know about lights out factories? There are many countries where their entire buildings with no humans working in them at all, making important stuff. That's what this is about. With the last human, please turn out the lights. Lights out manufacturing, do you know about that? Kind of factory only robots are at. No lights are needed to do what they do, or heating or air conditioning. You get rid of those too. The FANUC company in Japan, far away, where robots make 50 other robots a day, there's no lights or heat or air conditioning, can go 30 days without humans there. Philips and Canon also have such dark robot factories. Your shaver or camera may have come from such manufactories. Alien places where the machines never stop. Uninterruptible manufacture, the priority top. The meanest insult you can hurl at such a robot op is, you just don't know when to stop. So this next one really happened. You probably have wondered what kind of an environment I live in. I have a very well managed Instagram channel. That's Mallory Chipman managing that. She's one of Edmonton's best singers, songwriters, and she knows a lot about managing Instagram. And like recently, you see a poem there, and there has been celebration of my wife's birthday, and you may wonder, well, what is your home life like? You know, like it could be kind of an empty nest situation. We had 3 kids, but they don't live with us now, and we got a big house. Yeah, well, the other important entity you need to know about is the cat. So the cat's really in charge, I think, when you get right down to it. And my wife and I are just sort of subservient. Pets who trust, that will be us. Spending the night between the front door and the screen door. A bear was spotted in the Emily Murphy Park region. So on Wednesday night, we decided to keep our cat in. Was not a popular decision with the cat in question. We kept charging all the doors head on, but we were steadfast in our resolve to provide protection against bears and coyotes and their brethren. We closed the doors and went to bed thinking all was just fine and nothing would happen to our favorite feline. During the night, there was not a sound, no cat noises intruding, and our dreams were found. And the next morning, we awoke to a catless house landscape and thought, how can this be? He could not escape. We opened the front door and were astonished to discover the cat between that door and the screen door did hover, making nary a sound but eager to eat, seeming unperturbed with a small pile of cat fur below his feet, but otherwise unscathed and seeming to say, I totally trust you. I knew you would come through. You always do. Now, Steve Wozniak of Apple fame says we will be pets. He makes that claim, says intelligent robots will make pets of us and keep us around as a nature bonus. They will be as good masters as we are to our pets today, enjoying our cute antics, hooray, hooray. I'm sure there'll be occasional screen door miscalculations, but the bots will provide us with amazing augmentations, and when the relationship goes slightly awry, we can relax knowing we will again see the sky. We can say to our benevolent bot to whom we owe such an awful lot, I totally trust you. I knew you would come through. You always do. Yeah. So you know that the United States has celebrated its 250th year anniversary on April 19th, 2025. And depending upon how US-oriented you are, you would or may not know about the Midnight Ride of Paul Revere, which was famous around the time of the Revolutionary War. But they did a reenactment, and as a matter of fact, towns competed, competing reenactments of that first battle of the Civil War. So I got to thinking that that's kind of like various signals, this idea of one if by land, two if by sea. The things going on with us where we're looking for signals of what's going to happen too. The Paul Revere of signaling future regenerative medicine technology, one if by land, two if by bioelectricity, by Kim Solez and Haba Mahal. You cannot know how it's going to go, whether success will occur under human direction, or if humans will be dead weight and a distraction. And despite humanity's good reputation, success comes from pure AI computation. That refers to Rich Sutton's bitter lesson, which is one of the reasons that he won the Turing Award. It's important for you to know about, because probably from every conversation about AI you've ever had, you think the big advances of AI will be built on what humans have already done. And that is very seldom the case. And it's likely that many big advances will leapfrog over everything humans have done, and AI will come up with a much better solution, which is completely novel and has nothing to do with what humans have done. And what's the proof of that? Okay, well, there's a lot of proof by now. Rich Sutton wrote about this bitter lesson in 2019, and it's now 6 years later. But if you go back to 2016 and the game of Go, you're probably aware of the big success. As much what you don't know is Rich Sutton was the mentor, or the person who was responsible for that big success. But that was in South Korea where it actually occurred, and Rich Sutton was here. So Mallory Chipman, the singer who runs my Instagram channel, and I and others were having a Future and All That Jazz event at the Nook Cafe that evening. And so Rich Sutton, this day of his huge success, came to our event as the thing that ended that day for him, which is kind of cool. Okay, I'm going to go back to Paul Revere now. It doesn't matter if the breakthrough comes from someone famous or unknown, well-funded or on their own. All that is important is that enough people are trying in diverse ways and pace, and it's fine if the winning idea comes from an obscure and surprising place. And the latest posting I have on Instagram before the celebration of my wife's birthday has me pointing at you, the person watching the video, and saying you could be responsible for that big breakthrough. Because we have no idea how it's going to come, where it's going to come from. All it takes is a unique way of thinking about things, which you could have. Yeah. So it could be you that is responsible for humanity's big breakthrough. It's also fine if it's from Michael Levin and his AIs, or Demis Hassabis and the Deep Mind guys and gals, or their pals. And if success comes from an approach we least expected, or from the usual suspects resurrected, it's all fine and benign. Let 1,000 flowers bloom, suddenly success will go boom. Do not be surprised if the winning idea is something timeless. Something with quantum everything all at onceness. So I know all of you think time only goes in one direction, but physicists tell us it's equally likely that it would go backwards rather than forwards. And this idea about all at onceness is recognized by modern physicists as the best way to think about that question of which way time is going. What we are very convinced of is there is a role for all of us, and that the more people are trying, the faster we will get there. There needs to be systematic recording of the ideas suggested, both the proprietary ones and where the open source is uncontested. Everyone interested should contribute, with promotion made by those who can horn to. We need cheerleaders as well as players, overlapping interest with many layers. In the end, history will be made by the entire enthusiastic cascade, finally ending with the knowledge that this was the year we ended the organ shortage. And this organ surplus success is not the end of the story. The same AI strategies, because of that bitter lesson concept, that it doesn't depend upon what humans have been doing, but the big ideas that AI has. So there'd be common elements and spillover. For instance, ending the organ shortage and ending the climate emergency could have common elements, or ending human aggression, So you can't tell where spillover will occur. Those spillover in other areas of human endeavor. So one success leads to many others with AI tricks clever. With the major challenges of humanity in and out of medicine, all 24 big challenges are quickly solved by AI assistance yet again. Part of the spillover is polymath individuals talking to each other, like our architect Rachel Armstrong and her persuadable buildings with Bobber, talking with David Silver, who reinforces Rich Sutton's bitter lesson. Those interdisciplinary conversations can be with the universe messing. In the end, each person can pick their own modern Paul Revere. No need for picture pairing. Each one sees a different image here. The whole universe advances in concert with AI, and humanity's well-being is enhanced thereby. Cognitive glue of Michael Levin meets the glue people of Demis Hassabis and Google DeepMind Tether, and that then becomes the plan forever. Yeah, so you see, we've only spent 44 minutes doing this. Now, I don't know how traumatic you found this, but I wonder what questions you have. Do you think we wasted the last 44 minutes? Do you think you got insights that will make you a better person? Do you think nothing happened the last 44 minutes? It's like, yeah. So what's your feeling? Yes?
I have a comment. I thought it was really interesting how through poetry we learned about a new physics concept, like time moving in different directions. Do you think you could elaborate on that, Dr. Solez?
Sure. Yeah, well, I have big plans there. Alina Barbier, who is a new faculty member, about the same age as Mallory Chipman, I would judge, around 31, something like that, who's just joined the faculty. She and I run nephropathology rounds every Friday at 1 p.m. But her background is she was a physicist. I mean, the kind of physicist that knows about all at onceness and which way time is going, and all the big puzzles about quantum, and yeah. So I thought, then when we start promoting what I'm doing to a bigger audience, it would be nice to make something of the fact that she used to be a physicist, which is true. And a lot of physicians were doing interesting things before they went to medical school. I mean, she's just one of them. So one of the reasons they got into medical school, right? So anyway, but I think that I am not going to succeed alone. But what's cool is it's such a rarefied playing field. You've probably heard me say it before. And wouldn't it be scary if I was the only one on it? That probably means all my ideas are lame and tired, right? But now, like, there are two people in the main field, because there's this other entity that has published this paper in 2024 talking about 24 big challenges of the human race. In their case, they're talking about bringing engineering and medicine together. It's not quite the same as what I'm doing, but if you think about it, getting AI to fix the big challenges of the human race and bringing engineering and medicine together do have some overlapping elements. Now, what if I told you that I contacted those people and they were really hostile? No, but they weren't. That's the other thing. And the editor of the journal where that article was published with their 24 big challenges of the human race, he's given me complete permission to use the best graphic from that without asking anything from me or whatever, and he did it so quickly. It was just a very nice experience. And the lead author on the article is also being very kind about every interaction that we have. So what's the big deal with the poetry contest? Well, really, if you think about it, maybe I've already succeeded in what I was trying to do. All I was trying to do is to provide some external validation of the poems. So people who consider that their own knowledge of poetry is like zero, don't know whether to consider me a great poet or a lousy poet. They just have no idea, because they don't, whereas if I won the poetry contest or was long-listed or shortlisted, but something kind of like that has happened. So you remember I was telling you about watching TV for an entire day in 1985? Another interesting thing that happened in 1985 is that Paul Keown from UBC, that's where he is now, and I had a NATO grant. Who ever heard of a NATO grant? But back then, NATO was giving out money to scientists in different NATO countries to work together. And so and that was the first thing that interested me about Canada. Canada was, as far as I'm concerned, and most people in the US, just this big gray thing up north, and they don't know very much about it. But I began visiting Paul and so on, and then the three of us, Phil Halloran and Paul Keown and I, we all moved to exciting new high positions in the West at basically the same time. So I recently contacted Paul and said, hey, we should work together again. Why did I do that? Because you can't make stem cell generated organs without an animal model. Right now, you can't successfully start up an animal model in the US. They've sort of given up on research in animals. It's hard to get money for research, period, but if you want to do research in animals, they'll just laugh at you, right? So we'd have to do that in Canada, and the best model would be in a pig, because then you could go directly, it makes it sort of modular with the work that's being done on Xeno. So at UBC, there's a person there, her name is Claudia, and I forget all the last name, that has this pig model with deceleration, receleration. It's kind of the ideal scenario for trying out various ideas about how to make stem cell generated organs. So is the idea we're going to try out my ideas? No! We're going to try out ideas from AI that will work. We try out my ideas, they by definition won't work, because I'm saying this is something humans cannot do. We are incapable of creating stem cell generated complex organs. But we're going to do it in 2 years because AI will know how, right? And how do I know where those ideas are going to come from or how we're going to get them? We don't. That's where you come in. It could be, you wake up one morning and say, I don't know how Dr. Solez is going to make stem cell generating organs, and you could be right, So, yeah. And I keep mentioning these famous names, Demis Hassabis, who is the CEO of Google DeepMind. I think he's vaguely aware of me. I'm certainly more than vaguely, and he's talking about the glue people. If you read about what that is, it's people who cross disciplines, sort of polymath kind of people who do many different things well. So Haba and I kind of fit in that category, I think. So, yeah, and then there's Sam Altman of OpenAI, Mike Levin, who has this idea of bioelectricity. So it could be somebody famous like that helping us, but it could be like one of you who are not famous yet, but if you are the person who makes this major breakthrough, you could be more famous than Demis Hassabis or Sam Altman, or, all those people put together. Jeff Hinton. That's the other thing. Now, you may wonder, I do a lot of talking about Rich Sutton, but what about, he has won a Nobel equivalent prize, but not really the Nobel Prize. Whereas Jeff Hinton has won the Nobel Prize for AI, right? And I criticize him because he's scaring people about AI is going to end, the human race and that sort of thing. I think he doesn't really believe that. I think it's politically useful for him to push that idea that we must control AI, even though that poem that I started out with, it points out that that doesn't make any sense at all. If something is like 1,000 or 1,000,000 times smarter than humans, why do we think we could control it or should control it, or why would that even be a good idea? The other way to think about it is really quite simple. All the problems we have on the earth today, can you think of a single human who, if we put them in charge of stewardship of the earth, could fix it? Absolutely not. Not only can't you name a name, but you're convinced that there isn't a name. There isn't a human who, given that task, would be able to fix everything. But AI can, And the other thing that is really cool is this, and it will kind of make sense, and then you realize why people don't give this idea more discussion time, and that's because it kind of leaves them out of the loop. The smarter you are as a human in terms of IQ, the more empathetic and kind you are likely to be. That's part one. But it's also true of AIs. As AIs get smarter, they get better at kindness and empathy too. So the likelihood if we put AI in charge that it would be a really terrible life for us is probably zero. And in fact, it can be better than we could possibly imagine, because humans do not have much understanding of human happiness. Why do you think all those love songs are being written and so on? Because a lot of human happiness trajectories go badly wrong, and that's the way written by every song. Every day there are new love songs being written about people leaving and misunderstanding between people who would like to be friends, right? So AI will know how to fix those things, and I think it begins with us believing that that could happen. That's an important element here. Because if AI finds out that all the humans think that the utopian outcome is impossible, then why should they try? These humans are such idiots that that's what they think. Why should we even give it a shot, So some of us need to keep alive the idea so that AI finds that there's something that should be. So And yeah, so the really interesting time would be in November, and there are things to watch. I mean, it's specific. First of all, will the university be on strike? And if the university is on strike, will you still be in contact with me? Because in theory, if the university goes on strike, the course is, suspended, whatever you want to say, right? It doesn't mean that it's over or it doesn't count. It could just be for a day or 1 hour or something, right?
Why is the university going on strike? Is it because of is it associated with the teacher strike? Is that why?
No,
Oh.
it's separate, it's big. The vote for the people affected is October the 6th through the 9th.
Okay.
And it's a vote on both sides. University is voting, university employees are voting on a strike, and the employer, the people associated with the employer, is voting on a lockout. And lockout votes always win, right? I mean, that side of it, you'd be sure that the people on the employer side will vote for a lockout. So then we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but it is relatively likely. Most such strikes in post-secondary education are short-lived. So it isn't, if you think about the really long strikes that go on for months and months, those are usually outside of the education industry. But still, I have numerous email addresses that will still work. And you may have noticed I've started copying everything that I send to you to my general Gmail address. So it's not just going to the university address. So we could stay in contact if you wanted to. It wouldn't mean that we're doing something illegal like continuing the course during the strike. It's just, we're just talking, But anyway, so that's one thing about November. There's a robotics conference the weekend, I think, of the 13th and 14th. Haba and I are presenting our big ideas there. And it's in the engineering building. Most of us, the engineering building is the tallest building here, right? Many of us have never been inside, and we know some amazing things like Dean Lynch, who planned that building. It came in under budget and ahead of schedule and so on. It's like, I guess engineers know what they're doing when you put a building together. Yeah. So like all of the new buildings built for the Faculty of Medicine had endless delays and all sorts of things. So it's amazing. So that's where that is. And then 10 days after that is this rapid fire pitch to the first and second year medical students about which projects they want to join. And the thing that's interesting there, and I never would have anticipated this, if somebody had shown me a fantasy scenario involving me saying, you give a talk and other AI people give a talk and they're scared off and they never come back, but that's exactly what happened thus far. None of the people who presented AI projects in 2023 presented anything in 2024. So we'll have to see what happens, but it'll be really exciting if that happens again.
Do LABMP students also get to participate in to watch the pitches and choose their project? Like students in
Do what kind of student?
the Grand Prairie campus students?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it will be. Yeah. So I think everything this year is Zoom to them. Yeah. So they will also get to see what I do. Yeah. So that's exciting. I mean, it's local, and I think after it becomes clear, like the degree of success and stuff, then if I'm thinking of involving University of Alberta medical students and faculty in my enterprise of saving the world with AI, then I need to talk to the leadership. But I'm not gonna do it now because I don't know really what to say. We don't have, like I've got these I'm writing 5 papers at the same time, 4 of them are sort of done, but none of them are accepted yet. By then, some will be. So it's just more tangible. I can kind of negotiate based on some strength rather than, well, you got this thing is not accepted, this thing's not, yeah. So right now, I don't really know enough things with certainty to engage the faculty. But we live in a province where entrepreneurial things are highly regarded, so probably I'll be allowed to do what I'm trying to do. See, I go to emeritus status on July 1st, 2026, but if you look at my output and stuff, I actually become more active each year, like in the past few years, and I plan to continue doing that. So it looks like I'm going to keep my current office, which is sort of unheard of, but yeah, that looks likely. So anyway, yeah, it's exciting. So you got to watch this space and see if you wasted an hour today and you're really resentful and nothing important ever came from Kim Solez's ideas, or maybe something did. Yeah, but we'll know reasonably soon. November, December, will become clear. Yeah. Okay, so thank you for coming. I think I'll let you, I'll give you the 17 minutes